guys want to get some coffee or something?
Can I get a cup of coffee? Black? Can't you see we talking? White?
Even little kids in Mexico drink coffee.
Well, I'm not a little kid in Mexico, okay?
That is the best coffee I've ever tasted.
A damn fine cup of coffee.
You want a cup of coffee?
No coffee.
Coffee drinker, huh?
Maybe we could grab some coffee?
Coffee! Coffee, 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 coffee!
How you doing, fellas? That's no decaf, is it?
Viennese cinnamon.
Welcome to the show that lasts as long as my coffee. Yummy hot coffee this morning. Welcome to UFO Wednesday with Don Ecker on Morning Coffee with Gerry. We also have our good friend Das Wolfen. Das Wolfen, do you want to touch my monkey? And of course, Martina Costa Santana, who is been abducted by aliens and had an anal probe. Or he was telling us before the show.
I told you not to tell that.
Well, you said that. Yeah, you did tell me that. I'm sorry. So I made a little video for today. I don't know if we're going to get ganked over it. Each clip is less than 10 seconds long, so hopefully it won't happen. But this is dedicated to what we're going to be talking about today, which is what the fuck would happen if we got invaded by aliens? That's one way. Yeah. Yep, that's one way. Tom Cruise running, yeah. Oh, wait. Would it be this? A religious allegory? That would scare, David's kid? Would it be Independence Day? With amazing effects? Would it be Mars Attacks? With cheeky little aliens that kill for laughs? Would it be the same? Body horror aliens taking over our bodies? Would it be creepy 70s invasion of the body snatchers? Where they, again, microbically take over the human body and make you do shit like this?
I have come here to chew bubblegum.
Or would it be Kick-Ass? Where Roddy Piper comes back to life.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Yeah, baby. That's the one I'm wishing for. Roddy Piper comes back and kicks ass. Yeah, I threw that together like last minute. Last night before I went to bed. I'm like, I got to make a video for this show. So what the fuck would happen if aliens invaded us now?
You already on 2 in less than 4.
Oh, no. The name of the episode is What the Fuck Would Happen
3.
If aliens invaded. Don Ecker named it. He knew we were going to be going over, dude. Just stop worrying. This is going to be one of those shows where we don't give a flying fuck. And we're going to talk about aliens. But before we get going here, I do have to say good morning. I was, of course, the first person. Right there, right here. That's me. No, stop it. That was me. I was the first post. Then D. Bud Martin. And following D. Bud was, of course, the lovely Anima Confusa, the heart and soul of my life. And let's see. I'm not going to count you, John. And Monkey Jeebus, thank you. Come again. I'm so glad I'm not the only one that does that. Nick does it too. Nick Weiser from Toxic Tuesday. He says, hello, Monkey Jeebus. So I'm like, haha, I'm not the only racist. Haha. Anyway, good morning, Penny. Good to see you. Who else? Oh, Chris is here. Good morning, Chris. I might be able to drop in, but still trying to figure out how to get down off the roof of this high hop after last night's abduction. Anal probes for everyone. You get an anal probe. You get an anal probe. You get an anal probe. I suspect Don Ecker's already been anally probed.
Well, I'll tell you what, pal. This morning I feel like I've been anally probed.
You got bit by a something down there.
Spider, yeah. It's been my left arm. It's driving me
keep
crazy.
Keep an eye on it. Watch for fever and watch for necrosis. Because the camel spiders down in Arizona too, in California, out in the desert. They're smaller in the U.S., but it's the same spider. Wajid Leakey, good morning, my friend. And Penny says good morning to you, Don.
Well, good morning, Miss Penny.
Hex Allen Comics is here. Good morning, my friend. Lauren is here, but she's also physically here. She got the injections in her feet yesterday for. She's got really problem with these nerve tumors in the bottom of her feet, and hopefully this is going to help. But if it doesn't help, she's going to have surgery. Kingsport Cal is here. Let's see, and Six. Good morning, Six. You're waiting for your anal probe, Six. Well, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but somebody already broke it, so I have to play the video. I apologize. No, I don't give a shit. I'm going to play it. I'm not apologizing.
Like, wouldn't you know that back door would trigger a trap door?
There you go, baby. Somebody broke the back door thing this morning, and it was D. Bud Martin. So everybody having a good morning. Keith is here. Good morning, Keith.
He's muted.
Keith.
Hey, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So it's UFO Wednesday, and the big question is Don's question, which was, what the fuck would happen if aliens invaded now?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. You know, I've often thought it would be one of two ways. It would either be very serious, like in X-Files Fight the Future.
Right.
Or it would be very comedic, like the other David Duchovny.
Well, the other thing
film.
on X-Files was it was a long, drawn-out process on X-Files.
True, but it was all part of the same
what
story.
It is.
But
the thing
I also
is, I believe they're here already. They've been here.
Oh, well, then it's kind of a modified version of his other movie, Evolution.
For what it's worth, gentlemen, ladies, not only do I sincerely believe they are here, they have been here in one form or another for the entire duration. And up to this point, mostly, if there's been any conflict, and there has, it's been covert. It's been behind the scenes. I believe there are more than one group of sentient beings that have come here. And how they got here is problematic because in some cases it would seem to suggest extraterrestrial travel. And the other probability is interdimensional. And it's the interdimensional visitors that may really be the bugaboos. So, now the next obvious question, at least for me, would be, what does the government know and what, if anything, they're doing about it? And in these days, I got to tell you, I would not expect, especially from the current administration, a very robust response. Gerry, I don't know what you think about that, but
it almost sounds like Frank Herbert saying, use the atomics.
Hey, we have a super chat.
Oh, yes, we do. Magitech Mags is here. Good morning, Magitech. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Good morning, my tasty breakfast sausages. She just called us sausages.
We've been objectified.
We have been objectified by Magitech Mags. For you, Magitech, I have this very special but brief video.
Hey, Sweden! Not Swedish, Mac, the Norwegian.
There you go. So, I don't know, man. I got to tell you, I had never considered interdimensional seriously until I started seeing the shit going on at Skinwalker Ranch. And that shit's tripping me out.
Well, that's not the only portal. If in fact that's what it is, there are others that have been discussed and talked about over the last several decades. But that is, of course, the most famous one, primarily because of Robert Bigelow and his NIDS organization that he put together back in the 90s. But there have been a lot of questions that have come out about that. Bigelow is definitely in the believer camp. Okay. He is one of those guys that has got the money. He's got the money and he demands results. And there have been suggestions that it's possible that some of the reports that flowed out of Skinwalker Ranch in the 90s when NIDS were still in operation might have been falsified because they didn't want to disappoint Bigelow. Now, I'm not saying that happened. I am saying that that has been a suggestion that has been raised.
Well, something happened. We know he's the one who caved in that underground area where they're running into something that has the same material on the outside that we use with the space shuttle is inside underground there. And God only knows what the freak that is. But good morning, Mr. Tickletrunk. Good morning, Magitech Mags. Anybody else pop in while it was? Joe's Atmosphere is here. Joe's a fellow vet.
And Marcus
good friend.
A.
And who?
Marcus.
Oh, Marcus is here. Marcus! Hey, buddy. Good morning to you. We got a $2 super chat with Canadian $2, so it's sort of like that Monopoly money. Good morning, you greasy breakfast sausage bat. Stop objectifying us. We're being objectified this morning. For you, sir, I will play this brief video.
You pompous, stuck-up, snot-nosed, English, giant, twerp, scumbag, fuckface, dickhead, asshole.
We love you, Mr. Tickletrunk. And another super chat by Wajidliki. Good morning. Put a super sticker. Can anybody see what that is?
Yeah, it's a nervous smiley face.
Nervous smiley face. For that, you get this warning. This is a warning of one of the worst organizations in the world. They don't care. But Paramount's starting to act like they care. And I believe Paramount will always potentially become better because
whatever helps you sleep at night, bitch.
Shut up, Stewie. So I know that as a kid,
Scott Lewis is here. Yeah.
Oh, in the chat?
Yeah.
Alex Moore is too. Good morning, Alex. I'm still looking for Scott. I haven't seen him. There he is. Good morning. Right under Wishit. Okay. Good to see you, Scott. If you're not going to be able to drop in, that sucks. But basically, when we were kids, the invasion we feared the most was microbial. Whether it was something that would wipe us out as a species or whether it was something that would take us over. Like we saw Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
The Andromeda strain.
The Andromeda strain is one that would like knock us out. But ironically, in the film, everything that scientists did, you get this great payoff at the end, but it's not because of anything they did. The scientists didn't save the day. They just were aware of it.
Well, if there were truly an external threat from outside the planet, okay, to the planet, these days, I sincerely doubt, Gerry, that it would be, ships coming down, blasting us with plasma bolts or God only knows what. I think it would be much more subtle. I think it would be something along the lines of a bacterial or a chemical threat that would not initially even appear to be an attack. But hey, look, they've been here since humanity has. And if in fact there were beings that wanted to take over the planet, they could have done it long before now.
Yeah.
And I really question even our most potent weapons today, which would be nuclear weapons, tactical, strategic.
Tactical nuclear, yep.
Tactical or
I
strategic.
think they're going to be useless. Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't think they'd really make a difference because we saw in the 60s and the 70s incursions into our bases where entire flights of missiles were knocked offline. The only thing that might work, and this, believe it or not, was a consideration in Vietnam, because at one point there was a real threat of possible Chinese intervention, like in Korea. Backpack nuclear tactical devices, literally guys parachuting in with the components of a tactical nuke, setting it up, and boom, that would have been it. And that may be the only deterrent we still have that would be viable in that event.
Yeah, it's hand delivered explosives, and it's scary because even if you fly by wire, because fly by wire is the old school way of flying instead of modern technology. F4 was like the last, as I recall, the F4 Phantom 2 was the last fly by wire fighter we had.
I think.
Well, I'll give you a Cold War horror story that happened in 1984. Now, this came to me directly from a guy who had been in naval special operations. He was a senior officer, retired. I met him through my close buddy and brother, not actual biological brother, but my brother, Richard Saraday, during the Olympics. So this story goes, Islamic militants smuggled in through San Diego a tactical nuclear device that they had planned to detonate in Los Angeles during the Olympics. And among some of the other federal agencies that were notified was NEST, the Nuclear Emergency, the NEST organization, right?
Yeah, right.
And according to what I was told, I cannot vouch for it, but I was told this. And the guy, let's say I had a great deal of faith in this guy's integrity, that they were able to go in, neutralize the militants, and secure the tactical device before they could detonate it. Now, imagine, that's from a terrestrial threat. Imagine what an extraterrestrial or ultra-dimensional threat could be. It could be so much subtler than that. And that was pretty subtle if you think about it. Bringing in a tactical device in a hotel, by the way. It was in a Los Angeles hotel.
That's scary,
1984.
We have another super chat from Mike.
Yes, we do. Magitech Mags continues to drool over hot sizzling meat. All these guys, it's a sausage party is what she's saying. It's a sausage party. And for you, young lady, I send you this.
For that, you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
$20. That's it, baby. $20. It's all yours. Anyway,
we have another one from.
We get another one from Joe. $4.99. Thank you, sir. The theory that Bigfoot is yeah, I'm going to read the whole thing, but we'll get into it. The theory that Bigfoot is interdimensional in nature intrigues me. Would explain a lot, makes more sense than the missing link idea, which I actually believe we're dealing with two different kinds of Bigfoot. And you've got the standard Bigfoot, which is the missing link. I think it's just an offshoot of Cro-Magnon or something like that. Whereas with this, what you're talking about is the ones that you also get in conjunction with UFO sightings or other type of mysterious light.
And that's allegedly what's happening in Pennsylvania right now.
Yeah, the three-toed Sasquatch is not a true Sasquatch. It's an interdimensional and or alien creature. Woo, I like that.
Yeah, that was my AI assistant. Occasionally she goes a little wacko and she just started talking. So I unplugged her.
Hi, I want to hang out today.
Yeah, Vicky is right out here having some fruit for breakfast. She said, and you can't unplug me. So
you can't unplug me. Tell her good morning from us, from me.
Everybody says good morning, Puddin'.
Good morning, kids.
My Google Assistant will go off at 3 o'clock in the morning just randomly.
Yeah, it's not random. They're fucking with you. Joe's Atmosphere, thank you so much. Here's your quick video.
Hello. Hey, Brian, it's me. I got a question for you. Herbert and I are playing categories. Would you count NyQuil as a beverage? No, right?
No.
Yeah, not gonna fly, old man. Thanks, Brian.
Oh, that is bullshit.
Herbert the pervert trying to get Stewie to drink NyQuil. Look, this is the part that really freaks me out because we're dealing with situations that involve what appear to be alien to Earth, not interdimensional. There's like space stuff going on because there's stuff going on in space and they're coming down, going out. I believe there are what we have called stargates. It's not just a show or a movie, that there are real stargates. I think we saw one on the last season of Skinwalker Ranch. I think we saw it open and close. And it scared the shit out of me when I watched it. I had that same reaction that Joaquin Phoenix had watching The Alien on TV from South America. And all I can say is anything from South America is a little scary. Right, Martin?
No.
Well,
No.
I had out here in sunny Southern California, I had a barber shop that I used to go to, run primarily by women. And the woman that owned the shop was Iran. She was from Iran. And she and her husband got out during the revolution. Okay.
Yeah.
Her husband had been in the Iranian military, had been a senior officer, was a colonel. Okay. And when I first met her, and this was back in the 90s when I was going up there all the time to get a haircut, I didn't realize where they were from. But over time, we got to know her, and she was a real nice lady. And I met her husband briefly. Now, the reason I bring this up is a lot of people today forget that prior to the Islamic Revolution, Iran and the United States were very closely allied. We had a military presence there. We made available to them military equipment, aircraft, and what have you. As a matter of fact, we even gave them at that time one of our premier fighters, the F-15 Eagle. Now, in 1974, 75, prior to the revolution, there was a tremendous UFO event that happened in the skies of Tehran. Are you familiar with it, Gerry?
No, I am not.
Well, remember, this is still under the Shah. They had some UFOs come in to the airspace over Tehran. Obviously, the Iranian military tried to contact them to find out who they were. No response, so they launched a couple of F-15s. The F-15s flew up there. They tried to contact them. They had clear radar contacts, and when they wouldn't respond, the order came, shoot them down. So the pilots locked on their radar, armed their missiles, and suddenly the aircraft went dead. Dead. Their controls went out. Their electronics failed. They lost the missile lock, and they basically would have fell from the sky had they not have turned away. And when they did, immediately everything came back. They got all their electronics back. That was a clear warning, I would think.
Yeah. And
this
I'm assuming
this is
what year? What year?
This was 70, I believe it was 75, 74, 75.
So again,
you can find out a lot of information on it.
Seriously, the concerning part is, once again, this is obviously a fly-by-wire plane that was being used, fighter. So good grief, again, lost control of the vehicle. I'm assuming they probably lost power.
Yes, yes,
and they're
everything
just in the air. That's scary as shit. And a flyby. Once again, this says that the only way to deliver a weapon is by hand with these things, because they can absolutely shut you down, stop you.
Now, a lot of people may not know that we have air-to-air missiles that are fighter launched, that are tactical nuclear missiles. Very small in scope compared to like the bombs we dropped on Hiroshima or Nagasaki, and certainly not in the megaton range, but nonetheless, we have them. And I think that even if somebody managed to get one of those fired off, it would seem that whomever they are, have the technology to shut them down. So even that would be problematical.
Yeah, without a doubt. By the way, more people have popped in.
Yes.
Good morning, Darius Munchausen. Thank you for your $4 super sticker. I saw it. I went over to YouTube to see that you were a peach giving me coffee. Dennis McCullough, good morning, my friend. Let's see who else slipped in. Culture Casino is here. Good morning, Culture. How are you doing, my good friend? Hope you are doing well. Man, your streams are always awesome, buddy. You and Valiant Renegade put out the best business entertainment news shows ever. And you even go even further, because Culture Casino understands economy better than any of our friends. Economics is his
bag.
Yeah, and he was on top of it. And I've been trying to, when it was happening, as we got leaks coming in about CNN, I was sending them over to Culture because he knew how to break it down. So thanks for dropping in. I want to thank we got the super from Munchausen. And Kingsport Cal, member for 3 months. He got the PC boom. Hey, F you guys, he says. Had a cool show yesterday.
That's Wilson.
Yes, and of course, I think he's talking about his own show, because we didn't do a show yesterday. We're not going to do Tuesdays and Fridays until I find somebody who can sit in and do it for me, because I got to have some more time so I can do my work. But thank you so much for being a member. Thanks for being here, Culture. We love you, man. Scott, of course, we love you too. Don't know why you're not on here with us. I'm assuming you're selling things. Anybody else that I missed, buddy?
Yes. Dennis McCullough has
Dennis has been a member for 6 months. He's got the PC and giggity. What kind of giggity? A giggity giggity. Giggity giggity giggity. That's as fast as I can say it. I love how Seth MacFarlane can say it really fast. Like just fires it off quickly. Glenn Fleming from England is here. Good morning, our good friend. And did I miss anybody, bud? Get everybody, Martin? There's Culture
I think not. I'm double checking. Oh yes, Mighty Rax, which I guess is Mighty Mags.
Mighty Mags. Yes, Mighty Rax. What is it? Tig-O Biddies. That's what it is. Tig-O Biddies. But getting back into it, Don, we like the word invaded doesn't mean anything anymore because they're here. They've been here with, as long as, if not longer than man. So it's not an invasion.
Here's the dirty little secret. It's certainly possible that our earliest ancestors, that if they were not Homo sapiens sapien, might have been only one evolutionary step down, may have been brought here by people from somewhere else. In other words, it's very possible that human beings today, our ancestors, were transplanted here. Now, in 1984, okay, and at this time, the remote viewing program was still classified top secret. Okay, the remote viewers, but they were in operation. The Central Intelligence Agency had a session with a very, very qualified remote viewer that was tasked with, remote viewing Mars, the planet Mars, but the planet Mars over 1 million years ago. And this remote viewer was able to project his mind there. This is according to what documents were released. No idea, nobody is saying why they wanted Mars to be the site for this remote viewing session, but he allegedly saw, a civilization there. Now remember, Mars is a bit smaller than Earth. The gravity is certainly less. So that means in this case that those beings would have been probably very tall. This is what he claims he viewed. And they were having an eco disaster and were looking for ways to leave the planet and maybe come here, because Earth, of course, was very viable, very, very friendly toward life.
Yeah, your typical Class M planet. Yeah.
So anyway, there have been suggestions from certain quarters that we, in fact, may even have some of our ancestry that came here from the planet Mars. Now, none of this is provable at this point, as far as I know, but these are theories of possibilities. Okay?
Yeah, because, we talked about this. I remember back in high school, my buddies Mike Beatty and Jim Woodward and I would talk about the possibility that life started on Mars, that human life began there. And because of whatever disaster befell the planet, which I do believe that giant scar, caused it.
Well, I told you a couple of weeks ago about my buddy Dr. John Brandenburg, and his book that he wrote, as a matter of fact, he broke the scientific field with this research. He discovered that Mars, beyond any doubt, Gary, there's no doubt it happened. There were at least 2 nuclear detonations on Mars that would have totally decimated any life there, totally decimated it. And he was able to prove that by discovering the isotope xenon-129, which is the aftermath of a hydrogen warhead. Not atomic, but hydrogen. Xenon-129. That's the only place it comes from. Either there or
Curiosity is the one that found
supernova.
that. I remember Curiosity is the one that found it there and proved that Xenon-129 exists on Mars, and the only way to have had that happen. And so it begs the question, because I can't remember who said it, physicists who said it, that that giant scar on Mars, that valley, is an extinction level event,
Yes.
and they believe that it was not from Mars. It happened from outside of Mars, that it was struck by something not solid, but by something that would be almost appear to be a weapon.
Well, John said it was an airburst.
You think that's what it was?
His book, Life and Death on Mars, The New Mars Synthesis, is the book if you're interested.
Yes.
And it's a scary thing. Now, he theorized, and John and I have talked about this many times, he theorized a race of extraterrestrial beings came through the solar system and were looking for planets of life that they could nuke. Now, why would they do that? Okay. Well, there's even been a lot of science fiction about why something like that may happen. Another phobic society or planet of beings that fear the possibility of other life forms raising themselves up and being in conflict, they would go in and take them out first. Okay. Now, at that time, here on Earth, apparently there were no human beings. So we were spared. Although the planet has gone through 5 extinction level events in its history. And the planet's been around for over 4 billion years. So at least 5 times something has happened here that practically decimated all life.
And I want to show this image here just to give context to size, the scale of what is the name of it? It's called Valles Marineris, I think is its name. It's the giant valley. But the fact is, when you look at it from space, you know what it is. And that is not a natural valley. And look how big it is. It's bigger than the United States across its central axis. That's scary as shit.
Well, the only good thing is we'd never know what hit us.
Yeah, and it would happen so quickly. I wouldn't even get to say, bye, Keith. Love you, but I get love you, but, and he'll be left wondering in the afterlife, was he going to say but? Because I'm backdoor Gerry. That's the joke. Anyway, I want to let you all know this episode is brought to you by Tupperware. For sale, vintage Tupperware foot bath, meat defroster, puke bucket, potato salad, and popcorn bowl. It's Tupperware. You can use it for anything.
Hey, Jethro used it for cereal.
That's right. And I've been known to use them for cereal because we've talked about that. I'd get the bit, my mom would have a salad bowl or one of those big Tupperwares, and I'd pour Cheerios or Fruit Loops or Captain Crunch with Crunch Berries in there. or Freakies, because I like Freaky cereal too as a kid.
Me too.
Count
But
Chocula.
yeah.
I did like that one, but that was later. We were living in Illinois at that point, and I got to be honest, man. I like Boo Berry and Frankenberry better, and I love those two for some reason. I'm a berry guy, even though Gerry loves chocolate. I love it now. When I was a little kid, chocolate was not my go-to. I was not a big fan of Cocoa Puffs or any of that shit.
Well, when I was a little kid, I wouldn't eat ice cream.
Really?
Yeah.
What freakish thing about you caused that?
I didn't like what it did to my mouth and my throat. It was too cold.
Aha. Okay. I feel the same way about no, I'm not going to make that joke. Everybody knows where I was going with that. Anyway,
oh, by the way, now I know that you put a thing out on Facebook, but have you mentioned on the air yet our special Halloween?
No, we have not, and it's a good chance. I mean, a good time to opportunity to talk about it. Before I do, I want to thank Dennis McCullough this time, $5 super chat. I have heard of Hangar 18. What is it? It can't be just a song by Megadeth.
It was a Mormon. It was a Mormon movie.
Oh, what's that movie?
Yeah.
What was it?
Hangar 18.
What the hell was that about?
It was about a UFO came down, crashed. The government picked it up, took it off to a hangar. They had bodies and what have you. It came out. What the hell was that movie company that did that? Sunrise Pictures or Sunset Pictures? But it was Mormon. It was a Mormon.
I remember the film coming out. I just don't remember ever watching it.
Darren McGavin was in it.
No shit. Okay, now I'm gonna have to fucking watch this movie. Okay, Dennis, for your $5 super chat, you get one of my favorites of all time.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
There you go, babe. Thanks, Dennis, so much. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that film. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
Love Darren McGavin, no matter what a shitheel he might have been in real life. Because one of my favorite stories about him was told by Burt Reynolds. And also a kid that worked with Burt Reynolds knew the story, and he told it on one of those Western interviews. It's on YouTube. It's a channel that talks about classic Westerns, and a really good channel. And but Burt was working with him. He worked. The show was on a showboat. I remember that. You remember that series at all? Burt Reynolds was his sidekick on the show, and Darren McGavin was the main character. And what happened behind the scenes is Darren McGavin was given grief. I don't know if he was harassing her, but he was giving her some shit. One of the girls that played a showgirl on the boat, and she was a small-time bit actress, and Darren was just giving her the business. And Burt found out about it and walked over to him on the set, on the boat, grabbed Darren McGavin, picked him up, and threw him off the boat into the water. And he was summarily fired within like a day, removed from the series, which sucks because he was a major character on the show. Everybody loved him. That was where he got his big start. Whatever that show is called, I can't remember.
Well, Darren McGavin will always be Carl Kolchak.
Carl Kolchak, that's right. The little straw hat, and he would wear the tennis shoes without socks. That always cracked me up. He always just had these shoes on, low cut tennis shoes.
Right at Christmas, 1971, I was in Vietnam, and my family had a death in the family, and I was brought back on emergency leave. And I was home for several weeks for the funeral, and I had to go. Obviously, I had to go back. But right before I went back, there was a film that was being touted, a TV movie on television, that I ended up watching that night. And I got to tell you, that movie freaked me out more than Vietnam. Do you know what it was?
It was the first one. It was the Night Stalker. That thing was scary as shit. It scared the shit out of me when they aired that. He did 2 movies. That one, and then the second was The Night Strangler. And what's really funny, he was working from 2 different bases of operation because he would get in trouble and be told to leave town. But oddly, his boss would follow him. And then inevitably they end up in Chicago working for
INS.
INS. Carl, I can't remember that dude's name. He always looked like Fred Flintstone. He looked like Fred Flintstone.
Tony Vincenzo.
Tony Vincenzo was his character's name. I always forget the actor. He was also in the Sand Pebbles. He has the big fight scene with the little guy. I think it was
Mako.
Mako. Yeah, Mako had to fight him. But
You
Carl,
see, Gary, I know pop culture stuff too.
hell
dude.
yeah, you do. It's why you fit in with us. One of us.
Google gabble.
Goopa Kappa. That's right. Goopa Kappa.
Simon Oakland.
Simon
Yes,
Oakland. That's
Simon
the dude.
Oakland.
He was great in The Sand Pebbles. One of my favorite films of all time. Again, by a great director.
Directed by Robert Wise, whom, of
Wise.
course, I had the opportunity and the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Wise on my radio show. And I got to tell you, was that man a gentleman? Oh, my God, he was a gentleman. I met him originally over at Mr. Wise. I met Mr. Wise over at the home of, oh, God, he was a horror maven. Had been one of the publishers and editors of one of the early horror magazine. And I'm talking about things like...
oh man, Forrest J.
Ackerman.
Yeah,
Forrest Ackerman. Yeah,
I met him too.
My proudful moment of my life, one of the proudest moments, was when I did a Frankenstein painting for him, and he put a special thank you on his personal website. He would do blogs, and he would post things, and he posted a special thank you to Robert Englund and Gerry Cassell. And I got so ecstatic that he mentioned me by name. And then his son, and I'll say it to this day, I'll look right in that camera. Forrest J. Ackerman's son is an asshole because he took, when Forey died, he took his website down. Didn't want to pay for it. Sold a bunch of his stuff. Fucking asshole. And because I loved Forey J. Ackerman, man. He's the one who coined sci-fi. That's the man.
Yep. He also was the first person to attempt to make and negotiate to make a Lord of the Rings movie.
Yeah. Forey was something else. Now, going back to this, the first serious sci-fi movie about aliens. The first semi-serious was, of course, The Thing from Another World. But the next one was The Day the Earth Stood Still with
Good
Gort
movie.
and Klaatu Verata Nikto. Come on, Bruce Campbell. How hard is it to remember those lines? Klaatu Verata Nikto. You killed everybody because you couldn't remember what were those damn lines? But it's such a prophetic film because it really feels like that has always been the issue with humans.
Look, you, on the one hand, yes, that movie was a trendsetter. It was the first movie to seriously bring to the screen, after by that time, 20 years of things like Flash Gordon and
Yeah.
the Planet Mongo and all that cartoony stuff. This was a genuine attempt to treat this in a very adult manner. Okay, I said that. Now, I'm going to say the other thing.
Okay.
That film later rang at least 50% false to me for this reason. Okay. Any group of beings, sentient beings that go to space, and especially if they develop the means to travel to stars, okay, have got to be what? First and foremost, they have to be aggressive explorers. Yeah. And once you get out there, I've got a sneaking suspicion that capitalism is one of the things that will get them out there. Resources and God knows what, precious metals. Why would they need precious metals? Well, for example, what do we use today and what have we used for, well, since we've had
gold,
electricity and electronics? Gold.
Gold
exactly.
is an amazing conductor.
Exactly. And even our mythologies from civilizations like the Sumerians, the Anunnaki came down to planet Earth for what? Gold. To mine gold. Now, the myths go like this. They came down here, they found gold in vast abundance. As a matter of fact, we know in South Africa of gold mines that go back over 300,000 years. That's historical. Now, the Anunnaki, according to the mythos, discovered that mining the gold was too hard. The labor was too intensive. They demanded of their overlords an Adama, a worker bee, which then they developed. Asexual initially. Later, they were given the ability to procreate. But think about that. That's in our mythology. Now, how much of that may be true?
Well, this goes to two things. One, what's his name? Giorgio Tsoukalos has talked about that.
Yeah.
But they've also talked about that, I always think it's funny that guys like Keith and I may actually come from the same species of the Anunnaki breeding with humans. And because we're tall fuckers. And the Anunnaki were known to be giants. And it always rings to me that I remember as a kid growing up, like I said, devoutly Catholic. It was always brought up in Genesis with Noah, that one line, that in the days of Noah, giants roamed the earth.
Right.
That line has stuck with me since I was a little kid. And the first thing I connected was the damned Anunnaki. And of course, in the sci-fi version of Noah that they put out a few years ago with Russell Crowe, they show these creatures that I believe represent the Anunnaki. These giant rock-like creatures, or they're covered in rock.
Well, they were, whatever they were bastards.
Yeah.
Because they used nukes here on planet Earth. You see, that's one of the things a lot of people don't put the dots together, all right? Various factions reportedly is what made up the Anunnaki. Personalities. One city would worship one quote unquote god. Another city would worship another quote unquote god. And there was conflict between them, which led to wars. And the Anunnaki used their human cannon fodder. Okay.
And the
they
Indians
used us.
recorded that shit in the that book. Crap.
The Baha'i,
you know the one I'm talking about, that I can't think of the name of the book.
Yes, out of India. Yeah.
that they talked about that, and I believe that again, Tsoukalos and the guys have talked about that. They believe that that is a record of something that was witnessed that they didn't understand. These humans didn't understand. But what is it?
In 1993, Gary, a book was published by two authors. These names you should know: Michael Cremo and Dr. Richard L. Tompkins.
I know Tompkins. Yeah.
I interviewed both those guys. I've got the book. I bought the book immediately. The title of the book: Forbidden Archaeology. Archaeological finds in the last couple of hundred years that, quite frankly, many of the artifacts that were found were buried by science today because they're too embarrassing. There's no explanation for a lot of this stuff. Well, both of these guys, Cremo and Richard Thompson, are both members of the Indian, the Vedic tradition. Okay, Hare Krishna, I guess, and all that stuff. They are firm believers in that, and the Indian mythologies or religious teachings where they talk about their gods in flying craft called Vimyanas, all these things, and the wars that they participated in, and the fact that they had weapons that would burn their enemies to death. It would be an incandescent flash of light, heat. The war elephants would collapse in their tracks. Human beings would immediately die, fall to the ground. Areas would be poisoned for a very, very long time. Even jumping into water would not help them. Well, that is the perfect description of a nuclear device. Now, in India and in the Middle East, and I'm trying to remember where exactly, Zechariah Sitchin told me, and I've got his book, I'd have to go back and look. There are areas today that still have immense amounts of radiation. It's dangerous to go in there because something happened there that left a radioactive residue to this day. Now, buddy, you can't convince me otherwise. Somebody set off a nuclear device there. And for what reason, what purpose? Well, it's those bastards that came down from the sky that did it.
Well, I absolutely do believe, because some of the aliens that the American Indians have described sound just like the Anunnaki, and I wanted to point that out. That I think it was Darius. Yeah, Darius Munchausen says Anunnaki, the children of An and Ki. I love learning about these things and finding these connections, because that's the thing that Ancient Aliens is talking about, is the similarities between all these different cultures all over the globe of some of the things that they're talking about as gods have too many similarities, too many things in common. And the Anunnaki is one of them.
And there's a concerted effort to keep all of this in a fog. A concerted effort by the powers that be. Okay, if we knew.
Do you think it's a fear of control, loss of control?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. Yes. That's what I think is behind it. Hey, look, what is government? Government is power. And what is power? Power is controlling the masses. And if you lose that, oh my God, it makes them crazy. We can see it today. Every time you turn on the news, you can see it.
Yeah.
Gasoline out here right now, $7 a gallon. It raised
That's
way
insane.
Back up in California.
It's insane, dude. And Kingsport Cal brings up something here, and I do want to state something, Kingsport Cal. One of the things we learned in seminary, yes, that's right. I went to seminary to be a priest, met a girl, said, okay, yeah, I'm not giving up pussy. I'm sorry. The Bible is full of contradictions. And the fact is, that's true. The reason why, especially if you're talking Old Testament, is you have two different kinds of Old Testament books. One that is allegorical and the other is historical. Like if you read the book of Maccabees, that is a historical event that they're talking about. If you go and read about certain things within Genesis, the very first book of Genesis, is very allegorical. They're simplifying it down to the most simplest thing.
And where did that come from, Gerry? The entire book of Genesis. Where did it come? Originally, it came from the Sumerians.
Yes, Sumerians.
Not the Hebrews. Not the Hebrews.
Right. They had Gilgamesh, is the original story of what became Noah. And Noah is when it became, or Gilgamesh is when it became historical. Once we started getting into Abraham and all that, we start dealing with.
Where did Abraham come from?
Oh, I forget, but I'm sure you remember.
The city of Ur, from the Chaldees. He was Sumerian.
There you go. Sumerian, which makes sense again with the Gilgamesh and Noah story. And I believe a flood did take place.
Yeah, you know it did. It took place roughly 12,700 years ago, and it changed the face of the planet. Now, that's something else. What caused the flood? What caused North America at that time? Half of our entire continent was covered in ice. And within 1,000 years, it was all gone. Where did all that ice go? Well, it went into the oceans. The oceans rose. Places where human beings lived was totally wiped out and submerged.
On top of that,
changed the face of the planet.
with the increase of agua fria, our atmosphere changed, which created first serious rainstorms, which they coincided with the flood. Because once condensation occurs, it goes into the atmosphere. When that transference of water to condensation in the air started happening at a large level. There's so many things that occurred because of the melting of the ice caps.
The younger Dryas event began. The younger Dryas event began, where we had a mini ice age again. What caused that? All the
sun.
Trillions of tons of water that washed into the Gulf, screwed up the conveyor belt, that the currents ran up to Europe and back, which kept the climate mild. Suddenly that was displaced by this cold water, and boy, we suffered.
Yeah. And once again, yes, that is true. What creates the condensation isn't a natural occurrence. It's not CO2 greenhouse gases. Everything is impacted by that one thing, the sun. The sun hitting all that water. That was a huge event. God, man, the sun does it, 95 to 98% of the impact on our climate. And the minute those ice caps melted because of an event, something happened. It's just weird. I've got to say hi to some people. I'm sorry, Don. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say all this hysteria over CO2 today, all this crapola about man-made, climate change. It's a good thing.
The arrogance to think that man can do that much.
CO2 feeds the plants, and what do the plants do? They manufacture oxygen. Ergo, we breathe. If we didn't have oxygen, we wouldn't be here very long.
Yeah, the atmosphere is still 21% oxygen. Just letting you know, didn't change. I want to welcome that 70s rock fan, a good friend of ours. I'm sorry you're not here, buddy. Would love to have you on, but we'll have you Saturday. I know you'll be here Saturday. Let's see who else jumped in. Man a drinker, or is that it? Yeah. Let's see who else jumped in. Cavatino
George
Cavalry,
Lucas.
another fellow veteran friend, Cavatino Cavalryman Che. Gimme Genesis. He's thinking rock band. Thoughts on the latest discovery in Bosnia? Actually, I don't know what it is. Do you know what he's talking about, Don?
Well, I know that a number of pyramids have been discovered over there. Approximately 4,500 years ago, it looks as if they had a very sophisticated civilization. A tremendous amount of worked gold artifacts have been discovered. So, until several decades back, most people were not aware of that civilization that had been there, and what ultimately happened to it, I guess, is one of the big mysteries.
It's really weird. Kylock just popped in. How are you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. But basically, oh man, where to take us now? Because what happens if aliens fucking invade Earth? And the fact is, they're already here. They've been here. If they were going to do anything, they would have done it by now. People seem to think that there's a prophecy that somewhere in the 2020s, like around 2029, that they will make themselves known. I don't think that's a thing that's going to happen. I really don't. I think they're going to continue business as usual. Why change? They don't have any need to let us know they're there. But I think our awareness of them is increasing. And I think a lot of people are terrified of the fact that they look at us like ants on an ant farm.
Well,
they don't.
Well, this is a cyclical thing in nature, Gary. In 1947, when the whole story broke nationwide and actually worldwide, the UFO phenomena, whatever that phenomena is or was, it went on for 15, almost 20 years until the Air Force basically did everything they could do to shut it down after the Project Blue Book report was completed. They did shut down investigating UFOs publicly, at any rate. And then in the 70s, there were a number of events that once again raised public awareness. During all that time, there have always been people within the UFO field that tried to bring this to government, people like Donald Kehoe and others. And basically, the government, through the CIA and the military, managed to still keep what Vicky and I used to call a laughter curtain down around it. Then it seemed to go away until 1980, the event that happened in Bentwaters, RAF Woolbridge in the UK, all right, that involved the military, involved a landing outside of a base in the UK, the United Kingdom, a joint RAF American Air Force base that housed tactical nuclear weapons. Okay. Now, you got to have a little historical retrospective of what was happening then. The Russians had invaded Afghanistan, which was the huge news of the day. In Poland, worker strikes were going on, and there was great fear that the Russians would do to Poland what they did to Hungary in 1956, which was send in the Red Army and the Red Army tanks. Okay, that was ongoing. There was true, genuine fear that this could evolve into World War III. Those nuclear weapons were there as a deterrent. And then more things happened. The Japanese airline JAL flight out of flying over Alaska encountered a huge UFO, allegedly bigger than an aircraft carrier, shaped, that hit the airwaves. We found out that the FAA and the CIA and the American military were all freaked out about that event. Even Ronald Reagan, who was president at that time, sent his scientific advisors to this meeting to find out exactly what they knew about it, And then Gulf breeze began happening. I mean, it's cyclical in nature. All through the 90s, this was a huge story. Then it went away, The early 21st century, the UFO subject was once again submerged. Then what happened? The event with the Nimitz battle group off of San Diego in 2004.
Tic Tac videos. That's right.
The Tic Tac. But that didn't break initially. It took years for that to come out. And then, of course, Harry Reid.
It took place in 2003 and 04. And it took damn near 18 years or 17 years for it to come out.
Right.
Well.
But when it came out, it forced a new discussion about this. My God, there was no newspaper in the world more anti-UFO than the New York Times.
Right, exactly.
They even ran stories on it, And then Harry Reid admitted helping get funding for the ATIP program, investigating unknown aerial phenomena, new acronym for UFOs, UAP. And since it's been building. So, the
UAP, again, came about because all these people wanted to distance themselves from UFO. And it's just been something that's been abused by a lot of people, they think. And so, therefore, they wanted to distance themselves because of the stigma that goes with UFO. But UAP really is just, UAP doesn't exist once it's determined to be a solid object. Stop calling it a phenomenon when you know it's an object. It's a UFO. I understand if it's an energy orb and you're not sure what it is, it might be a probe. So UAP is apropos. But once you know it has mass, it needs to be changed to UFO because it's now an object. So I don't mind them coming up with that, but they did that. Hillary Clinton was one of the first people to say it in public, and it's all about it's the new niche thing to say UAP. Look, I found a new thing, a new acronym, and they treat it that way. And on top of that, they're once again trying to distance themselves from the letters UFO.
Look, when you use Hillary Clinton, the only thing that comes to my mind is Benghazi. That's the only damn thing.
Yeah, I know. I want to point out some things that were said in the chat. Kingsport Cows asked the question, have y'all talked about the asteroid hit? I don't know. Are you talking about the one that was the
one that just happened?
Oh, the one that just happened.
To deflect it. The DART, the dart. Yeah. It hit it. But I still haven't heard if they've managed to move it at all. You're talking about a big chunk of rock out there. And unless you put a warhead on that probe that hit it, I don't know if just, the mass of it hitting the rock would have changed the direction. And besides, that's not just a single rock. There's an even bigger rock behind that. So it's hard to say.
Yeah,
Apiosis may, 2029 or is it 2037?
Thank God our show won't be on at that time. I don't know. Anyway, Cavatino Calverman Chase said that the one you were talking about, he brought it up again, Rendlesham Forest incident, Suffolk, England. Kylock says, if we figure out who the aliens are, they'll destroy us. And I don't think that's it. I think there's two things that are really feared by the government is that if it's fully found out at some point, there would be an uprising to deal with them out of fear. The pitchforks mob thing. I think they feared that with us. And if these things are in the earth and we find out where they're at, they're afraid people might go there. Do you think I'm right or wrong on that?
Well, when I first officially entered this field, this was after, and I was just talking to somebody about this. This was after the John Lear paper that was released in 1987. Now, John Lear was an airline pilot, a captain. He was the son of William Lear of Lear Sigler Corporation. Okay, he was a guy that discovered, if you will, although he always knew about UFOs. His father, Bill Lear, had a huge fascination with the subject back in the 50s and 60s. Did some, from what I understand, originally some cutting edge research on it. But Lear, John, went off on a tangent. And this is a very long and very involved story. But a lot of the information that he came out with originated to Lear from a fellow by the name of Paul Benowitz. Paul Benowitz was a civilian scientist, lived at the time he's dead now, he passed on, but next to the Manzano test range, the air base there, and had been observing some strange lights, some other things. He knew a guy by the name of Leo Sprinkle, who was a psychologist, psychiatrist, that even then was working with abductees, okay? Benowitz became involved in some of this research. And anyway, the long and the short, he became convinced there was an unwelcome alien presence on Earth that was working in conjunction with some rogue elements of the U.S. government. Now, in Dulce, New Mexico, Benowitz came up with the theory that there was an underground base there, Dulce, manned by elements of the U.S. military and the alien presence. And everything went along swimmingly for a while, but something happened that caused conflict to break out between the military and the aliens. Now, this is what Benowitz believed. Do I think this actually happened? Absolutely no, I don't. But be that as it may, Lear became convinced of it. And a week after I first contacted him, he sent me a mass of documents, all the research that he had conducted up to that point, including several videotapes, which had some very unusual apparent UFO encounters on the videotape. Now, Lear was convinced that, and he got very cagey with me initially, he wouldn't tell me, but that he knew a quote unquote civilian scientist that had been working on an alien bunker buster. In other words, tactical weapons that could be employed to blow out the underground alien bases. Well, who that ended up being ultimately was the Bob Lazar character and the story, Area 51 and so much more. But Lear then really went off the rails with some other things. Now, Benowitz, as it turns out, had been such a pain in the ass to the Air Force over this UFO business. And Benowitz had even gone to his United States senator in New Mexico to investigate these alien incursions that the AFOSI decided to launch a disinformation operation against him. Now, in 1989, William Moore, the guy that wrote the first book on Roswell, was one of the featured speakers at the MUFON Symposium in Las Vegas, where he publicly admitted that he was part of a disinformation program mounted against Paul Benowitz at the behest of his government handlers. In other words, Moore had basically been working hand in glove with intelligence personnel, and he excused this, in his presentation because he was, quote unquote, trying to get to the middle of the beehive of the UFO real secrecy that he was convinced the government knew about. Well, that created shockwaves in the research arena like nothing that had been seen prior to that ever, okay? And I mean, this is such a long and rich and confusing mishmash of data that, it's in my head, and it sometimes it may sound a little incoherent when I try to relay it, but believe me, it is no simple riddle, Keith. And I see you shaking your head over there.
And you're muted, Keith.
That is a lot of information. I mean, I used to think I used to give out a lot of information. Don, you just dumped all of this stuff.
to quote Kingsport Cow, Don dropping bombs.
Big time. Big time. Wow. And I had never heard of MUFON before, so that's new for me.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, they were established in 1969, but
yeah,
I was
as a matter of fact, the guy that was their first director who established MUFON was a guy by the name of Walt Andrus. Okay. I got some interesting stories about interaction I had with Walt Andrus, that Walt had originally been a part of the earliest civilian research organization of UFOs called APRO, which was created back in about 53 by a husband and wife couple by the name of Jim and Coral Lorenzen. Now, Andrus, and this is something that today not many people are aware of, Andrus raided their membership files, stole data so he could create MUFON. Okay. Wow. And to her dying day, Coral Lorenzen, who was a real firecracker, hated Andrus's guts with a passion. If she could have put him in a wash tub full of boiling and burning oil, she would have cheerfully done that.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you, there's a lot of craziness in this, guys. There really is.
Wow. And according to what I've seen, they still have MUFON up to this day. I think.
Oh yeah. And MUFON has had its ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
For one year, I was personal friends when I was living in the state of Idaho with the MUFON state director. Okay, a guy, and we basically ended up bonding over this question of the UFO enigma. And Don wanted me to be his a section director for MUFON. So I joined MUFON for 1 year as his section director. And Don Mason was a real go-getter. Okay. He really wanted to get out there. He would take out full newspaper ads and pay for it out of his own pocket. And what he wanted to do was to put together a so-called fast action squad of investigators, because we were having a lot of sightings in Nevada, okay, in Washington, in Oregon, and Montana. And he wanted to connect these people all together. So he didn't have a personnel file of MUFON people. So he called up Walt Andrus, who was in Texas at the time prior to his death. And he said, look, Walt, this is what I want to do. If you can send me your names of your personnel in these states, I want to contact them and put this so-called reactionary force together. And Andrus refused to give him even one name. Now, I am convinced the reason he did that, he was afraid that somebody would do to him what he did to Jim and Coral Lorenzen. So, it was a self-defeating thing. And when I saw that, I said, screw this bunch, okay? They're not worth my time. Because, I come from a military background. And what's the first thing about the military that you learn? There's no I in team, okay? Yep. That's the way it is. You either work together or you hang separately. Well, Andrus was one of those guys that decided to hang separately. So fuck Walt Andrus.
Wow. Well, there you go. We are at the end of the show. Don, good episode, in my opinion.
Wow.
I really feel like I walked away with more knowledge than ever before. Anything to add on this, guys? You got anything you want to ask Don?
I'm still processing everything. Look, he was dropping bombs, man, and my brain is just now catching up.
I feel you, brother.
I will say this though: MUFON is on Facebook, and
yes,
they are, as I said before, they're still holding gatherings and everything. I think they have one either getting ready or
the problem, Keith. The problem with them is that for years they have been billing themselves as a scientific investigating organization dealing with the UFO phenomenon. Well, I can tell you that's not true. All right. When my wife and I were publishing UFO magazine, and we did it for over 20 years, which incidentally, in that genre of journalism, UFO journalism, and I'm talking real journalism. I'm not talking this crazy, oh my God, they're coming from the Pleiades and they're taking our baby bullshit. All right. It's not that stuff. So my wife was a journalism graduate. Okay. She worked in actual journalism before the magazine. I had been a criminal investigator. I know how to conduct an investigation. So we went at it from that standpoint. Well, over the years, there were a number of people that were making a huge splash and some outrageous proclamations. And I'm talking about stuff that flowed all across the UFO research arena. Wow. So I would have people come to me, and I'm not going to name any names today. I may later. But hey, Don, what about this guy? He said this. What about that guy? They said that. So it was interesting enough to me to say, okay, all right, I'll check it out. Well, I ended up doing a series of reports in UFO magazine over a number of years called The Whistleblowers. Okay, are these guys real or not? And I exposed in a big way a number of those people, which caused a lot of personal problems for me, okay, after I did that. But hey, look, I'm not one to shy away, okay? If somebody's a damned liar and I can prove they're a damned liar, well, a damned liar is damned in my book. So that was just basically how I approached it. As a matter of fact, one night, and this is just a little aside, but I was at home. This was about 9:30 at night. I was at home. This is back in the mid-90s. And Vicky had already gone to bed. And I was doing something. I forget exactly what it was, but I might have been reading. The phone rang. So I got on the phone. Hello? And somebody said, hey, Don, are you listening to the Billy Goodman show? Now, Billy Goodman was a guy that had tackled unknown phenomena, UFOs and other things, before even Art Bell or myself. Okay? I knew Billy slightly. He was, in many respects, another Art Bell, more bullshit than actual fact. But if he had a hell of a story, he would run with it. Well, he had one of these guys on that I had just done an expose on. And this guy was on the radio, and he was basically claiming that my wife and I were every kind of a lying son of a bitch, blah, 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 on the radio, right? So this friend of mine called me up and said, hey, you better turn that on. So I did. And I listened to about 5 minutes of it, and I had Goodman's number, so I started calling it. And I got his producer on the phone, and I said, look, here's your possibility. You bring me on the air now to confront this son of a bitch, or tomorrow morning, my attorneys will be calling Billy up. Well, that's all it took. And before I knew it, I was on the air. So I confronted this guy and called him a bald-faced damned liar, okay? And then I laid out some of my research, and that show became infamous in its own right, okay, when I did that. Now, I will say the guy's name, okay? And this is a name that, boy, oh boy, if you look it up online, you're going to see a ton of shit about him. I did a 2-hour radio show on this particular guy using his own voice in tape recordings of things that he had done, including calling up a couple of people I knew. One was a Hollywood movie star, Michael Callan, and his best buddy, Douglas Dean, who had been an old-time Hollywood exec back in the 50s and 60s, and threatened their lives, okay? They had gone into business with this clown. And the guy that I'm talking about, his name was Milton William Cooper, Bill Cooper, okay, who was a toxic bastard. And in the first week of November 2001, he was living in Ecker, Arizona, had a reputation, had federal warrants out for him for bank fraud and tax evasion, had just threatened somebody with a firearm, with a gun, okay? Like I said, huge, long, evolved story. And the police finally had enough of this guy. And the reason they had been staying away from him was because he had threatened to have another Waco, Texas, if they came to arrest him. All right. And he ended up getting in a shootout with the police. He shot a cop in the head. This is in 2001. And they blew his ass off. All right. Now, today, today, there are still people out there in conspiracy land that think that this guy was a true patriot. He wrote a book. Titled Behold a Pale Horse. Okay. Matter of fact, stole the title from the Bible. Behold a Pale Horse. And it is a top seller in prisons all across the United States. Okay. Especially the African American inmate population, which blew me away. Regard this, yes, there he is. Regard this guy as some kind of a prophet. All right. Oh, I got a hell of a story about this guy. But anyway, Gerry, I know you want to close up shop.
Whew. That's a lot to unpack.
That is. Wow. Gary's muted.
I'm sorry, the kitty cat was making noise, so I muted. He is a huckster, and even Forbes called him a huckster. Just a con man. And so
do I got stories about him? Oh God. Yeah,
we should do an episode just about that, the hucksters, and have like first half and second half based on two different people you've had run-ins that you've called outright liars. But because he's not the only one. I know you called another dude that too, called him out. But on Larry King Live, you did that on CNN. It was great. Yeah. But I want to bring up,
and that by the way, okay, I had done on Larry King. I had done 5. I don't remember anymore. 5 or 6 appearances until I broke the story on STS-48, the space shuttle that encountered UFOs over Australia and New Zealand. And I knew Larry King's producer at that time. His name was Tom Farmer. So I called Tom up back in DC and I said, hey man, I got this video that's gonna blow your socks off. And he said, well, what's it show? And I said, well, the space shuttle is over Australia and New Zealand. And suddenly this UFO rises above the limb of the earth, okay? And suddenly there's a brilliant flash of light that the camera on the shuttle picked up. Something was streaking right at this UFO. And by the way, what I think it was Ronald Reagan's weapon, Brilliant
Star Wars
Pebbles.
program.
Yeah, which Vicky and I did a big issue on his Star Wars initiative. But anyway, this UFO takes an immediate right angle turn, which was, if you see the video, it blows your mind. Okay. So anyway, I tell Farmer about this and he says, look, can you get down to our studios in LA? And I said, sure. So Richard Saraday and I went down, took that video down. They copied it, sent it back to Farmer. He gets back to me. He said, oh my God, we got to do a show on this. He said, look, I got it. Now he's asking me, all right, the UFO guy, he's asking me, we need a skeptic on there, Don, because we got to balance it out. And I'm thinking, Tom, you're so full of shit. What do you need a fucking skeptic for? But all right. So I suggested Phil Klass. So I gave him Klass's number. He calls up Klass. Phil Klass wants nothing to do with it. So then I said, well, okay, how about a NASA contract scientist? He said, oh, that'd be perfect. So I suggest, Jim Oberg. I said, Dr. Jim Oberg. So they bring Oberg on. Now, this is my either 5th or 6th appearance on Larry King Live. And every freaking time I was on there, King would ask me, well, Don, when are they going to land on the White House lawn? And I got to tell you, I was so sick of hearing that. So I go on this show this night. And usually I'm very nice, very polite, which I still stayed nice and polite. But I thought, I'm not taking this shit anymore. I've done this too many times. So I go on there loaded for bear. I'm the criminal investigator again. So I ask Oberg, as soon as I go on, as soon as they bring him on mic, I said, Jim, by the way, I said, you're here tonight to discuss this footage. Let me ask you, are you here as NASA's representative, and are you working under the constraints of any security considerations? Now, what a lot of people didn't know, all right, I knew, but a lot of people didn't know, Jim Oberg had been an Air Force nuclear officer. So he knows all about top secret, okay? You know what I'm saying, Keith? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So he freaking blows up. This is at the start of the show. Well, at least I'm not on here to sell magazines. So well, of course I'm on here to sell magazines, you shithead. Why do you think I'm here? Don Ecker, you director of research, UFO magazine. No shit. So anyway, it went from there. And by the time the show was over, if you remember, Larry King always took phone calls. His show was actually international in scope.
Yeah, well,
People
he got
could
started
call
that
in.
way on radio.
Yeah, people could call in from all over the world. They took 2 phone calls that night. 2. And guess what? They were both fucking NASA guys calling up to diss this video. Do I need to say it? Was the fix in, guys? Was it in? Okay. But I ate Oberg's lunch, and he never forgave me for that. Even to this day, okay, I tried to get Jim Oberg to come on my radio program. If I did it once, I did it a dozen times, and he refused. That chicken shit refused every fucking time. He said, well, you control the mic. And I said, Jim, I've been doing this goddamn show for 25 years, and if you ask anybody that's been on my show, they'll know I never controlled the mic, ever. You had something to say, by God, I'm professional enough that I let you have your say, and then I have my say. But don't tell me I control the mic. And I'll tell you, it pissed me off. It really did.
Yeah, no, I get you on that.
Yeah.
Now, you've got a naysayer, our good friend Glenn Fleming out there is saying the film is fake.
Really? Well, it came directly from the freaking space shuttle. It was picked up in a television station in Dundalk, Maryland. It was given to me by a researcher there who videotaped every NASA mission, okay, everyone from that TV station until after the Larry King show, I might add. I got to add this. But it was a direct NASA feed. Now, immediately following that show, the night it was in June of '92, that Larry King show, NASA encrypted that freaking
that
feed.
Video. No, I know about
since that.
So if it was fake, why is it encrypted? You know.
No, it wasn't.
So, I'm sorry, Glenn.
It wasn't fake.
It's not fake. I don't buy for a second it was fake. I've seen it. It looked absolutely genuinely real. And I've seen fake shit, and I can spot fake shit because I work in the visual industry.
Now, I've been in this business too goddamn long, okay, to get bushwhacked by something like that. I have the provenance of that video.
Yeah. But
and if it would have been fake, goddamn it, Oberg would have said that night on Larry King Live that it was a fake video. It wasn't.
And he wouldn't do that. And at that time, to be honest with you, we were at the advent of the digital age. There, this is the thing that always gets me. Well, the Bigfoot in the 8mm footage is somebody in a suit. First of all, we didn't have the ability to do that then. That's clearly, you don't understand special effects. Special effects at that time were incapable of doing that. The faked moon landing, I said, look, visual effects were not that good. The best we got was in '69 with 2001: A Space Odyssey. And the fact is, they were very specific in how they did things in that film to get it to look real. And that's on film. You can't do that with video. And then this one, in 1992-93, visual effects weren't advanced enough to fake that kind of video.
Well, the actual mission took place. The actual STS-48 mission took place in September of '91. Okay.
Yeah.
So
there's no way that it was faked. There's no way that it was faked. So anyway, you got to know the history of special effects and where it was at the time that they're talking about something being faked and going, it couldn't be faked. It could not be faked at that time. So anyway, I want to wrap up. I got to thank everybody for being here. Thanks for being, and Glenn, don't take that shit personally, buddy. It's just how we feel. And coming at it from an angle of expertise, and knowledge, we don't agree with that being faked. So, D-Bud Martin, I want to thank you for being the first person here. Anima Confusi, love of my life, thank you for being here. Penny, good morning and good afternoon. Monkey Jeebus, thank you, come again. Wajid Leakey, Christopher Moonlight Productions, I hope your anal probe was okay. Joe's Atmosphere, Hex Allen Comics, Lauren, of course, who's still behind me. Kingsport Cow, 6. I'm always grateful for her. I always feel she's got my 6. I always feel she does. She's always out there batting for us. She pokes fun at me a lot, but that's because we're friends. Magitech Mags, love you, girl. You're awesome. Mr. Tickle Trunk Man, you're the foundation of this show. Marcus, thanks for being here, buddy. Scott Lewis, wish you'd been here. Alex Moore, Dennis McCullough, Culture Casino, Darius Munchausen, Glenn Fleming, Mighty Rax, Tin Man, Cavatino, Cavalryman Shea, Alatar, that 70s rock fan who I got to hang out with last night, Mana Drinker, George Lucas, Kai Locke, and did I miss anybody? Because I know we lost Martin. They lost power where he's at in Mexico. So they had a complete blackout. But I think I got everybody. I'm going to look real quick just to see if I missed anybody. Darius Munchausen, yep, Kai Locke. I hope you're feeling better, Kai Locke. It sounds like you're doing really well with the exercise. Yeah, I think I got everybody. I got everybody. Yay. And Glenn Fleming, good. He says, I don't. Great show. But I still think he still thinks it's a fake film. First of all, it was shot on video, not film. And they couldn't do that on video in 1991. Absolutely no fucking chance, buddy. You are absolutely full of malarkey on that one for thinking that, because they could not fake in 1991 what they did. So anyway, everybody
add 2 shots of Slivovitz, it'll feel better.
Damn straight. Hey, I hear, and I got to warn you guys, if you ever get the inkling to take a shot through your rectum, don't do it. It'll kill you. And Slivovitz will kill your ass. It's got, what is that, 150 proof? That shit's fucking strong. It'll kill you. There are people that do that shit. They get the alcohol enema. Like, it goes straight into your bloodstream. You're going to fucking die. Don't do it.
I had an upstairs neighbor that did that.
Did they survive or did they die?
Yeah, they only used wine.
Oh, that's different. That's like 4 or 5% alcohol.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, I want everybody to have a great Wednesday. It's middle of the week, hump day. Before we go, I guess I should mention some little bit of news. Mikey Sutton has, John, you want to touch the one after I do the first one with Michael Keaton?
Okay, sure.
The rumor mill, and he does have great contacts, is that basically to make up for kind of taking him out of the Flash and all that, There are talks of him being in Batman Beyond, which is something that all of us have wished for a long time.
Well, it's a way to go. It is the only real way to go if you're going to sign someone of that caliber and then make him jump through all these hoops and do what
then
they've
remove
done.
it.
Yeah,
and then remove it. And you look, I got to tell you, I think that Zaslav is a man of honor when it comes to running business, and so hearing this talk makes me feel good. Now, next, Das Wolfen, you saw Geekosity had an announcement this morning.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan's live-action Static Shock movie is still on the slate. It's still a go.
Hey, and that's the one that they could get. Now, remember, he had originally joined up with them to do Icon. So, Icon, he can't get made. For whatever reason, Hamada didn't want to do Icon, mainly because he had his nose so far up JJ's backside. But to me, that means that there's going to be a lot hanging on the Static movie to see if they can get that Icon movie done.
I got to tell you, look, there's something else you and I've talked about for a long time, and we'll make this the last subject. We're still waiting for a Steel movie.
May I make an announcement too before the end?
Of course, John.
We were going to do this earlier during this broadcast, but for any of you that may be interested, in a couple of weeks, right here on Pop Culture Minefield for Halloween, I am going to tell you about my actual investigation involving vampires.
The High Castle, the Highgate vampire. I'm very, very excited about this. And by the way, Animal wants me to tell you that we watched the Longest Beer Run Ever movie. And I was a little annoyed by a little bit of it because, look, man, if you tell a really good story about the war, it is in itself an anti-war film. You don't have to go overboard with it. And it felt like they got heavy-handed in the third act, Peter Farrelly. That was my one problem with the film. They were telling stuff that didn't happen the way they showed it. The Tet Offensive.
You need to read the book.
Well, I watched the one documentary, and I will get around to getting that book. I've got some other books I have to read by a friend of mine.
But I watched it also, and I agree. Now,
that friend I need to read the books of is you. I was making a reference to you.
So anyway, there was a lot of other things that happened during the Tet Offensive that Chicky Donahue got caught up in.
Their timing is off too. It's like they're showing it in the middle of the night. It's not what happened.
Now, he had been in real life an ex-Marine. Okay, no combat experience, but an ex-Marine. He's in the middle of a war. Okay, in real life, during Tet in Saigon, he was armed. Obviously, any moron that wasn't quite a full moron would have found a gun somewhere just for simple self-protection.
Right.
But they never showed that. And that kind of irritated me.
Well, they make him sound like an idiot that doesn't know how to handle a gun at one point.
Right.
And it's like, he was a fucking Marine. And they don't even say Marine. He served, is what he said, in peacetime military. And I'm like, look, man, you still know how to fucking do this shit. I was annoyed by lots of little things. And Peter Farrelly took too much liberty with it. Took too much liberty with that fake reporter that never existed. I love Russell Crowe. And it just annoyed me, that character. And look, it's true that in real life, the real guy was changed in his opinion of the war, but his stance of supporting the military never wavered, ever wavered. He was a major supporter of soldiers in particular, and he believed it was wrong to protest because protesting really had an emotional and psychological impact on the soldiers in the field. And it lends, what do they say, giving comfort to the enemy Support and comfort to the enemy.
Absolutely. And the other day, just as an aside, and this is a pet peeve of mine, it'll never go away, ever, ever, ever.
Ever.
Jane Fonda was brought up. That
Jane,
communist traitorous
Jane.
bitch that went over to North Vietnam, gave aid and comfort to the North Vietnamese
Even her
communists.
dad, a major liberal Democrat, had problems with what she did.
To the day that that woman dies and to the day that I die, I would never give her, I wouldn't piss in her mouth if she were goddamn dying of thirst. Okay.
Oh, come on. Everybody knows that we would all piss in her mouth. It would be fun.
Anybody but that's the worst part of that whole thing. And then I'm going to shut up. Is that one of those POWs that she met with for a photo op tried to pass her a note to get it out to the world, and she gave the note to his communist captors, and the guy was ultimately tortured and beat for trying to pass her a note. That bitch ratted him out. So fuck you, Jane Fonda.
Yeah, that's always fucking stressed me out that she did that. That was just a horrible thing to do. But I want to tell you one last thing before we go. Nickelback has a new album out, and it's amazing. It's fucking metal. It is really good. And I'm going to tell you something. I've always thought it was shitty the way they got treated. And this guy is the guy who started it. Brian Posehn is funny dude, but what an asshole. He absolutely destroyed Nickelback. And the only thing that hurt them, is they got too big too quick. That's what happened. They got too big too quick. And so he shat on them, and he started a whole thing. It started from Brian Posehn, and he shit all over them. They're a good band. They just got too big. They're pop music.
I crack jokes about him. But I actually like a lot of Nickelback
even
songs.
fucking Family Guy has done it, you know. But the fact is like this new album, the song San Quentin, holy shit. I listened to it this morning. Scott sent it to me. He couldn't join us on the show today, but he made sure to send that to me. And I will point out something I really liked. On the show, Metalheads react to the new song San Quentin. They loved it, but they said something that I said many a time, Keith. They said it too. These are two metalheads. That AC/DC is awesome hard rock, but they keep remaking the same fucking album over and over again.
Oh, heck yes.
Back in Black is the greatest hard rock album ever. And I don't need to listen to any more AC/DC because I heard the best they could do. And
LA Woman, dude.
Oh, yeah. LA Woman.
LA Woman.
The Doors. No, you're a Doors fan, and I know that. Great band. I may not be a fan of Jim Morrison personally because I thought he was a shitheel. But look, man, I know that music's great. But I also know that they stole one song from the Kinks.
Muddy Waters.
Everybody kind of stole from Muddy Waters that did blues rock. But I mean, Stones did too. But when it comes down to it, they stole the song. Dun, 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 dun. The Kinks wrote that first, and they did get sued for it, and the Kinks won. And I always liked that. They were honorable about it, the Doors, by giving them percentage of the royalties, and eventually they made a deal to let it go.
You know, you were too young. You were too young. All you guys, some of you probably weren't even born. But when Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Jim Morrison all died within a year of each other,
I remember.
I was in Southeast Asia then. It was like somebody kicked me in the balls and destroyed my world because I loved Hendrix. I loved Joplin. and I adored the Doors. Okay, I just did, and that there's never been anything quite like that in pop music since, where that many major stars died within such a short time. And talk about conspiracy theories. At that time, there was a huge conspiracy theory that J. Edgar Hoover and the government were knocking these guys off. Now, just think.
Well, it's really odd. They all died of choking on vomit. You know, I mean, Mama Cash choked on a sandwich, thank God. But,
Don, I'll have you know, I was 1 when Jim Morrison died. Thank you very much.
So you were born in 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, Keith and I were kids. I was 6 and he was 4. Right?
Yep.
4.
Yep.
And I was 20 in 70. So there you go.
I remember Bobby Kennedy getting shot. And Martin Luther King.
My wife, Vicky, okay, but
I heard that. Holy crap.
She snuck down to the Ambassador Hotel, and this is after it was shut down, broke in because she wanted to go back and see the kitchen where Bobby Kennedy was shot. And she did. And she was always proud of that. The Ambassador now is not even there anymore. They tore it down.
No, they had torn it down when I went. I snuck in.
Well, I know you snuck in.
Yeah. If you want to tell them that.
Now she's over here doing typical wife stuff, correcting me, don't you know? Yeah, she did a big editorial on that for the magazine. Yeah, we were at that time. Oh, and that's another little thing about my Bill Cooper expose. He latched onto a theory, and I was there at the inception. I know the guy that put the video together, that the driver of JFK's limousine actually fired the fatal shot into Kennedy's head. Okay. Now that's another little story we can discuss. The driver shot JFK. Oh, that was big 28 years ago. That was big.
Yeah, and by the way, it's not a myth. The fact is, if you're doing heroin, the overdose is likely not what killed you, is aspirating your own vomit. And it's not like, oh, that's impossible. No, it's a very common fucking thing. People dying on their vomit from doing heroin, because
that happened to me.
Every single person when they shoot up with heroin, fucking vomit.
That happened to me. That's what caused me to die on the operating table after I was wounded. Yeah, I had eaten a C ration that morning, and when they gave me the anesthetic to put me under, because I had to have major surgery. I started vomiting. That it reacted with the food in my stomach, and obviously they revived me. But I remember that. I remember actually, Gerry. I don't know. You're going to think I'm full of shit, but it happened. I had an NDE where I actually observed them working on me on the operating table, the surgical
team. I
team.
believe that stuff. I believe that happens. Yeah, no, I believe that stuff. Now, the only one that's in question is Jim Morrison, because he was found dead, and it's been really, if you read his medical report, there's a lot of contention over it. But the fact was, they referred to his death as natural.
Yeah.
But Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin both died from aspiration. And
well, there are even people that believe that Morrison's girlfriend Pam gave him heroin and suggested it was cocaine.
Yeah,
and he OD'd on it.
Yep, which is what they show in the movie Pulp Fiction. She snorts heroin. And by the way, I saw something that was really cool, that A lot of people don't notice that Vincent Vega spends a lot of time, an inordinate amount of time on the toilet in the movie Pulp Fiction. And it was something that was thrown in there because a lot of people don't know that heroin causes you to be
incontinent.
Not incontinent. The word I'm looking for is
constipated.
Where you can't constipated. Thank you.
Yeah.
It causes constipation. And so that's why that was in there. It was actually done by Quentin Tarantino on purpose, just to see if anybody caught it, and people did. I thought that was funny. So nothing natural about dying from aspiration. Well, technically, breathing in your own saliva, which happens, people will do that. They'll aspirate their own fucking saliva and fucking die. How much water does it take to drown in? 1 drop. A single drop will kill you.
Boy, talk about a show with multiple topics today.
Yeah. Look, this is...
We go from alien
ADD
invasion
theater.
to dying of heroin overdoses, aspirate, oh my God. You know, the space shuttle, holy shit.
Oh,
Gary,
that's a good episode.
That's why I called my stream the random stream of randomness, because this is already ADD theater.
Yeah, ADD theater, that's right. But look, we're going to do the show tomorrow. We're going to be talking about House of the Dragon until the season ends, and then we'll find something else that's fantastical, movies and shows to watch with fantasy, and that will take over. We'll just keep doing it until one of us dies or all of us die.
Nothing like House of the Dragon.
I'm enjoying that show, man. Amazon shit the bed with their fucking Rings of Power.
More character development in this past Sunday's episode, in a scene with absolutely no talking. More character development, more plot development than any episode of Rings of Power.
I assume you're not talking about the scene with Rhaenyra and Daemon.
I'm actually talking the scene where everybody's there, but nobody's talking.
I was talking about the albino.
Yeah.
Poor Gerry tried to stop this show a half hour ago.
Well, I do have a question, Keith. Who was the main character that they were focusing on in that episode? He ain't falling for that shit no more.